Welcome back to the show. And if you haven't subscribed yet, please remember to subscribe. And let's get back to our conversation with Amy. So, did you have while you guys were estranged? Did you have a lot of your friends and family asking, "Hey, what's going on with so and so?"
Well, initially, we didn't tell people, just
Yeah.
because there's that shame factor. But, eventually, as I came out and told my story, about what was going on, my own cousin, who I'm close with, shared with me that she'd been estranged from her son for almost 3 years and never told
Wow.
anyone. So, I think that there's safe space to share when you're estranged, and then I think
Sure.
there's not. Like, when you run into somebody that you used to work with in the grocery, when you're in the grocery
Right.
store, I don't necessarily know that that's appropriate person to say. So I always make the suggestion, have a coined kind of phrase or know what you're going to say to those type of people, because I
Yeah.
didn't initially, and then I ran into somebody and I just started bawling and they didn't know what to do with it. So now I just, if I run into someone like that, I just say, if they ask after my daughter, like someone she went to high school with or something like that, or a parent from our past, I just say, oh, she's living in an apartment and on her own. She's supporting herself. She's a manager at Target. And then I immediately turn it and ask a question about them. So
Yeah.
I don't ever want to lie, but I
Right.
just don't want to tell the whole thing to someone
Oh,
who
for
isn't
sure.
a safe space. So,
For for you and them, because
mhm.
like you said, they wouldn't know what to do with it when you get to a certain point. So yeah, it's yeah. um so I know for me, it was difficult in the beginning to, like, I started having issues at work, because I couldn't, like,
Focus.
just control things. I couldn't control my emotions, and so I started having problems at work. But with the emotions, were you able to? How were you able to work through and deal with those? Would you allow yourself to be mad or be sad or be whatever the emotion was? Or
Mhm. Yeah, I'm fortunate because I just work at home. I'm a housewife, but it was very challenging for my husband to focus on work.
yeah,
And I think he just had to do his job, so he was kind of delayed in processing some of that. But yeah, I had to feel my emotions and go through that. For me, I would start to feel this, and I'm not an anxious person at all, but all of a sudden I'd feel this anxiety, particularly when we didn't know where our daughter was.
oh, all
And
that
it was just, I can't even tell you how horrible that feeling was. And, your mind goes a thousand different
every
ways.
place.
Yeah.
Yep.
And so for me, I am a person of faith. And so I would recite in my head scripture over and over. And for me, it was Philippians 4:7. And I just said, and the peace of God, which transcends all understanding, guards my heart and mind
Yeah.
in Christ Jesus. And I would just repeat it and repeat it and repeat it. And that for me really got me through those times where I really felt like I was falling apart. And I had to keep going because of my son. And I
Right.
had others depended on me. But
Yeah.
I think you go through so many of the stages, like the stages of grief, just like in a death, and you have denial and you have bargaining, you have anger and you have depression.
Yep.
And I think you just go through all of those. And I don't ever know that there is, in those, there's acceptance. And I
Right.
think there is an acceptance to a degree,
Right.
because otherwise I don't think you can go on.
Yeah. And I tell people, I've told people in the past, it's not like you graduate, and you're done with it, because
Mhm.
you could be mad right now and then be all good for 6 months and then just get mad again about it. So there's, unfortunately, there's not a necessarily an end to sight unless things get better with
Mhm.
them. So you just have to learn to process it, I guess, and to um, try to move forward.
Yeah.
Um, some people have told me before that people have told him, well, just, it's been so long now, just get over it.
Mm.
You, you can't just get over it.
Right.
So it just doesn't work that way. Like you said, with no closure at all, it's always an open wound.
Mhm.
So it's very, very difficult. So, I mean, not that nobody can. Some people can. I've heard people say, oh, I'm good. I'm just moving on and
Yeah.
whatever. And but it's you just can't. Everybody can't do that. So
Right.
I know I couldn't.
Yeah. And I
Um,
think, you talked about that open wound, and that happens often, like around holidays, whether it's a
oh,
birthday or all of that. And so we all have, I'll say, good days and bad days. And
sure.
even though for me, and I learned this from Elizabeth Smart. Do you remember Elizabeth
Oh
Smart?
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Not that I'm
What an
comparing.
incredible young woman.
Oh,
How
if you ever
she.
get the chance to see her speak,
Oh
do. But, not that estrangement, I'm not comparing it to her situation at all, but she
no.
said something that resonated with me. Someone asked her, "How do you go on? How do you live your life after this horrible thing has happened to you?" And she said, "I've had a wonderful childhood. I have a wonderful husband. I have a wonderful, family now with my children." And she said, "I'm not gonna let this much of my life, and there's this much out there,
Wow.
define my life." She's like, "So you have a choice." And I'm like, that's for us who are living with estrangement or strained relationships with our children. We have a choice every day
Yep.
how we're going to think about this. And
Yeah.
so for me, I choose to focus on what I do have rather than what I don't. And that's what works for me. Everybody's different.
Sure. Yeah. No, that's great. Yeah, I've seen snippets of her before
Mhm.
on YouTube, and yeah, she's just an incredibly inspiring young lady. So,
She's
because how many
remarkable.
people that have gone through a smidgen of that
Mhm.
can put their lives together afterwards. It's
Yeah.
just, yeah, it's something. So, um, well, that kind of, so I know for a lot of people, when you're going through emotional stuff, it actually turns into more physical pain. Did you have an
Mhm.
experience like that?
I had some physical symptoms. Estrangement does take a toll on your health,
Yeah.
for sure. I had a lot of like sick to my stomach. I just had a lot of insomnia.
Oh yeah.
So I had, and the physical. I'd never suffered really from depression too much in my life, and I had symptoms for depression, hard to get up, all of those things. And so it did take a physical toll on me. One of the things that helped me was to start walking. So I always
Mm,
suggest to people start exercising, whatever it
yeah.
is for you, whether it's running, whether it's going to a gym, whatever. I know it's not easy making those first attempts to do it, but I started walking, and I still walk 3 miles pretty much every day.
That's awesome. Yeah. Uh, very good friend of ours. Her daughter and her daughter. We have become close to her daughter,
Mm.
and that's one of the things that she does all the time when she's having a hard day or some boy trouble or whatever, is she goes to the gym and makes sure and tries to um, get the frustrations out that way. So
Mhm.
but yeah, I definitely had the depression, and I had depression a little bit when I was a teenager, but not really since then.
Mhm.
But I definitely went through that.
Yeah.
And I don't think I would ever physically harm myself. I
Mhm.
really don't. I'm not that kind of person. But it was like, if I happen to go to sleep, and
Yeah,
didn't wake up,
you'd be okay with
I'd
that.
be okay with that because I was tired, and that's, I'm certainly not advocating anything, but that's just the way I felt at the time.
Mhm.
Yeah, it's definitely not um not good. So obviously, you mentioned that you guys didn't she didn't give you any kind of reason. It was likely
Yeah.
related to her boyfriend at the time.
Yeah, she did not give us any reason, and often estrangement is, involved a third party. The third party can be a
For
boyfriend, a
sure.
daughter-in-law. It can also be, with parental alienation. It can be one
Yep.
spouse turning the children against the other spouse. And there's a whole bunch of information on that. So for us, there wasn't really a reason given. We do know that our daughter has some behavioral health issues, so I think that plays into it.
Yeah.
But certainly the third party in our situation, being the boyfriend, is a key factor.
Yeah. Well, if you were able to, because you said is she currently estranged from you now,
Yeah,
or
yeah, it's been
okay,
2.5 years. Yeah.
that's right. Okay. So if she was listening to you now, is there
Mhm.
anything you'd like to say?
Oh, of course. I always have a lot to say. I would say we love you. We miss you. We're grateful for the time that we had with you. And we will always hope and pray in our hearts that you will return to us and our family when you're ready, and that our door will always be open to you.
Awesome. Um, you know, this is kind of difficult, but would you say, I mean, I have some ideas, but would you say anything positives that have come out of the estrangement happening? I know that's kind of weird, but any byproducts that you could see as positive?
Oh, you know what? I think that there has been good that comes from this. And
Yeah.
I believe that there good comes from all things because God works for the good in all things, even something as horrible as estrangement.
Hmm.
Um, Two things come to mind right off the bat is peace is one of them. I never would have entered this journey. I didn't want this, but I felt that it
No.
was the Lord calling me to a ministry, and that's how peace started.
Ooh, I just got chills.
My husband and I fund this as a ministry because there is some costs involved. You know, we
Sure.
minimal costs. I mean, it's not a ton, but we fund it out of our own pockets to help others through this. So I have met the second things met wonderful people on this journey of estrangement, and they've helped me. I hope that I've helped them. So
Yeah.
definitely, there's good that's been coming from this.
Yeah, I've made some really good friends. The
Mhm.
my friend that I think I mentioned earlier. Oh, excuse me. Who is one of the admins as well in the group that we're in. So we're very good friends. I've learned a lot about myself
Mhm.
and starting this journey with the podcast, and I've gotten, as I'm sure you have, I've gotten a lot of feedback from people, emails from people just thanking me and, talking about their journey and knowing that they're not alone now, that it helps. And, so definitely know where anybody wants to be, but definitely some good has come out of it. And I don't know what the future holds for me and my son, or even our other two kids, if they'll at some point decide that they want to take that journey.
Mhm.
But now I think we're in a good place to, at least it won't, whatever happens going forward, we've learned a little something through this, I think. And you know hopefully it won't um, completely debilitate us if something happens again. So
Mhm.
but yeah, helping other people, that's the whole point in the podcast, was to try to help just a few people, and it's really ballooned
Yeah.
into quite a thing. So
Yes, I
um,
would agree. I never knew how big this was going to end up being, but I get emails every single day from all
yeah,
over the world, parents looking for help. And so if
yeah,
I'm able to just offer one little bit to them, it's worth it.
yeah, that's awesome. um, so I think we've talked about it, but just to reiterate, with about your group and your website, was there like one final thing that said, "All right, that's it. I'm going to start this thing and see if I can help people"? Was there one thing that prompted that, or was it just a culmination of? Does that make sense? Uh oh. Can you hear me?
I think it was just a combination of things,
Okay.
mostly just, looking for help for myself and just, to start it. And there wasn't one out there. Again,
Yeah.
this was 5 years ago. So I think it's just, we've really ramped it up, especially with COVID now too. I think that's impacted and increased the numbers of
Oh yeah.
estrangement. There's the polarization that's going on in our world has contributed to that. And
Yeah. For sure.
so I think it was all of those things that really impacted me to start it. And I just kind of keep going because I think there's just such a need.
Yeah. There sure is, and I
Unfortunately,
know I know I was thankful to find your website through my one of my other podcasters and or one of my other people I spoke to, and looks like you're doing some good work. So that's good. I'm glad to see more people out there
thank
trying
you.
to help the rest of us parents out there.
Yeah. And interestingly enough, I get actual emails from therapists as well looking to
Oh,
uh, offer their clients a support
oh,
group. And here's something else, a little caveat that's interesting. So I don't know if you follow Dr. Joshua Coleman. He was an estranged parent himself. He's a psychologist
so yeah,
in California. Super nice guy. He does webinars and lots of information. He's written 2 books. Some people like him, some people don't. I happen to like his work.
right.
Um, and he is actually now running educational classes for therapists who are dealing with their clients who have estrangement issues.
Oh, awesome.
This is not something that was covered in their traditional training,
No.
in the day, in their education. So the therapists too are looking for help with this because so many of their clients are coming to them with estrangement issues.
Oh, that's such good news, because
Mhm.
that's so needed. There's only so much you and I can do,
Yeah, as
but
lay people. Hmm.
yeah, from the therapist, if they can get the proper training to handle these situations, that'll go a long way.
Yeah.
That's really great. So if somebody wanted to join your group, your mission, at least online, and maybe have another branch, have you
Mhm.
thought about that? Is there a way to do that?
Yeah, actually, I've got a couple different groups, and again, in previously before COVID, people were starting peace groups in their local area. I help
Okay.
with that and get them up and running as much
Okay.
as I can do,
Sure.
virtually.
I
So
saw you have one in Florida, don't you? I think I
yeah,
saw that on
yeah,
your website. Yeah.
there's someone who runs one in Florida.
Yeah.
Anyway, so well, since COVID, they've kind of shut down. I had a couple more going, but with COVID, a lot of them had
Gotcha.
dropped off. So then we went to the Zoom. So I run a one over Zoom on the last Tuesday of the month from 7 to 8 Central Standard Time. So anyone's welcome to join that. They can just go on to the website and it says find a group or contact either one. And you just email me and I'll send links for that.
Okay.
If someone's interested in starting a peace group in their area, they can also just contact me through the website and I will help them. I usually like to get to know them, just usually talking over the phone or
Sure.
over Zoom, something like that, just so I can get a feel for their story and then have them fill out a facilitator application. And then we go from there. But I help them supply them with a logo. If they want the piece logo, I can also help them do press releases and give them ideas of how to generate people to come if they're looking for an in-person group in their area so that you have to kind of spread the word. I wasn't, like I said,
Right.
advertising. So I try to help with that to make it a little easier.
Oh,
And
that's
that's
awesome because I know there's a number of people in my Facebook group again that have asked about doing, in-person things, and it's with everybody so spread out, it's very
mhm,
difficult, but having that as an option at some
yeah,
point,
mhm,
that would be a great thing.
yeah.
So
And
I'll
I've had
definitely.
people on my group which we meet every month, who actually ended up being in the same area and now have gotten together for coffee and whatnot. So
How
it's
awesome.
yeah, it's worked out pretty great. So and I'm hoping that one day I get to meet a couple of the other people. Maybe we could have some sort of convention or I don't know.
Right, right,
But
something.
starting a local group, as we move forward is definitely an option with Peace, and I'd be happy to help with that if someone's interested.
Awesome. Awesome. Very good. So advice, would there be what would be something you would recommend advice wise to a parent who finds himself going through this just at the starting out? Is there something you'd like to throw in there? Does that make sense?
Um, Absolutely. First thing, get support. I would suggest either a therapist if that's your something you're interested in doing. I would say reach out to groups like the one you facilitate. Just educate yourself on the phenomenon of estrangement. I'd be cautious of burdening your family or friends with this. Sometimes we get so
Yeah.
consumed in estrangement early on, we can't think of anything else, and sometimes that can be a burden to some of our friends and family, and they can't quite understand it because they've never been through it. Again, getting outside, exercising would be another thing. I would suggest stay busy, get connected, volunteer. Those are some things that, not all at once, of course, but those would be some things that I would suggest that helped me. And
Yeah.
that was this, and practice an attitude of gratitude. I literally would make a list of all the things I was grateful for. I mean, I'm fairly healthy. I have a home. My husband has a job. I have a dog. I mean, any of those things, we all have something to be grateful for, and just
Yeah.
really focus on those things. And
Just
that
to
helped
find
me.
it and focus on it. Yeah, for sure.
Exactly. And definitely I felt like educating yourself as much as you can, reading, and so that it gives you a sense of you're not crazy, it's not you, you're not alone, and that was super helpful. And I
Yeah.
would suggest people do that for sure.
Okay. All right, cool. Well, I really appreciate you taking the time
Mhm.
with me today, Amy, and talking to people, and to
Mm.
thank you for what you're doing out there, because it takes a lot of us to try to help these people that are out there. So like I said earlier, I think just hearing your perspective and mine, and all these other people can help someone. I
Mhm.
just feel like if it helps one person not take that drastic step, or a drastic step, then all the time and everything is well worth it. So thank you. I appreciate that.
No, thank you. I appreciate what you're doing, and just, all of us banding together and trying to get the word out, so that these parents don't suffer in silence would be great. My website is peaceinternational.org, and that's peace without an E, PEAC, international.org. So go on there. There's some great resources on there as well. And also, if anyone wants information on joining my group or to start a group. Um,
Okay. And I'll put your website link in
Great.
my description for both my audio podcast and the YouTube channel once I get it all put up there. So everybody can just click on that and search you
Great.
out, and hopefully get some good support. So I want to thank Amy again for being on the show. And please remember to visit her website if you have any questions on perhaps joining her group or starting your own group, or just for some of the resources. The website address is peaceinternational.org. That's peace without an E. So visit the website, take a look around. If you have any questions about that, contact Amy. But I appreciate Amy being on the show. For everyone else, if you have any questions for me or you'd like to be on the show, feel free to email me at beyondthepainpodcast@gmail.com. And please remember to live beyond the pain.